do this with me. So just put your finger on your occiput and just trace that around, so see what the level is. So it comes sort of through the ears and around to the eyes. So that level is organised like our most important senses, but also our balance centres, and also the cerebellum, like the motor control centre of the brain. So it's all on that ring. So we could say that's like the computer, or the how we can both sense and move. Now, if we look at the chin, this ring here, so that's your vocal area. So just trace it around so you're familiar. So that represents the ring where when we put a head support under your heads and so forth, it's so that circle lines up like this. So this one is sort of where a lot of people are living, you know what I mean? So the upper back rounds, neck curve gets steeper, and then I lose that as an actual informational ring. Then the big one here. Now, when you haven't done any of this type of work that we do, and you ask someone to adjust their spine, they nearly always do it from the pelvis. And again, we can do that. We can adjust via the muscles that are crossing the pelvis, but there's only one pressure regulator in your body, and it's in your chest. So we basically can't do enough work. Again, if you consider this ring, so when I pin my sternum now and I lengthen up from there, now these two are actually strong in the way they know themselves. Now we all know the challenge of caudal pelvis, like the ability of this to change its shape, to push to the pelvic floor and hips. So if you now sort of pin your chest, look up, what happened with your breath? So come back down. So what happened with your breath as you looked up? You inhaled, huh? So it's physiological. Every time we'll look up, there's an inhalation. This doesn't come up. So Jordan took you through this idea of packing the breath. So Hans Lindgren was there at the course. He's an international practitioner of DNS, and he's also a strongman. So he talked about the strong men. They breathe in and then they don't breathe. He said, if I'm doing a maximum lift, you might get, just like a little bit of an escape of the breath, huh? Because that inhalation is, in a sense, filled this, and then I'm just locking down on it. Now, what we work on a lot is to get the shape change and be able to keep it on an out breath. So if a strong man is not exhaling, it's because they're breath holding and locking down. And again, this is just to show you the scope of the work, huh? That's not so much good and bad. Here's the diaphragm here at central tendon. It comes down to L2. If I can keep that down as I exhale, the diaphragm's trying to stay down against that which it's attached to, which attaches it to the spine. So we know from the stabilising function that it comes down and stays down with intra-abdominal pressure. You can see that sophistication of keeping that is really at the deepest aspect of our functioning. You know what I mean? If we're saying brain recruitment, etc., based on the task. So the ability to shape change, get caudal pelvis, and then maintain. And then obviously that's revealing this whole level pelvic floor and hips. Now, Collage talked about this. You've heard Jordan and I speak about these concavities as an informational centre for the shoulder and pelvic girdles. So what Collage was saying is if I want to move here, I'm actually using that the head of the humerus and then the joint surface as an informational input for pivoting. So same back at the hip, the head of the femur and the pelvis. Now when I glide, that that joint surface is the intelligent part of how the joint knows what it's doing, and then all the muscles crossing the joint understand their role. So if we've got this idea of the three circles lining up and we can activate, then we want to bring our attention to where we're moving in terms of these joint articulations. So if I've got a closed chain, the head of the humerus is a fixed point for movement, and the joint cavity is what's moving. It's moving on that fixed point. If I'm in an open chain, the joint cavity is the fixed point for movement, and then the moving part is the extremity. It's organised there. So once again, it's purely reciprocal. And we'll do some stuff sort of shortly around being able to explore that.